All right, congrats. Now you are ready to go make an offer. You've taken the class, you understand everything. You understand your buy box. You understand how to build a team and your systems and how to talk the talk. You may not feel like you're ready, but you are ready. I'm giving you permission to make offers. I want to walk you through what I call the house money flywheel to confirm to you how this works and to confirm that you are ready. Here we go. Now, a flywheel is a startup system mentality where you have some heavy object that starts spinning. And once it starts spinning, it spins faster and faster and faster and faster. That's a flywheel. Okay. It takes a lot of momentum, a lot of effort to get that going. You push it, and then that first spin goes, and then the momentum just keeps going and going and going. So this is very appropriate to how real estate investing works. And it starts with knowledge. You've taken this course, you've listened to our podcast, you read our newsletters, whatever you're doing to get this far, I promise you, you have the knowledge necessary to push, to create. That's the hardest thing. Let's push it to the next phase of the flywheel, which is building confidence. The more knowledge you have leads to more confidence that you have, right? And when I mean confidence is you start figuring out, oh, I know what these are worth here. This is what I would pay for this property in this location. This is what my budget affords me. This is how much money I'll make with my budget. You're starting to get this confidence and you're going to start predicting, oh, this property is probably going to sell for this. Or I bet you that could get X amount of dollars of rent. Let me double check my numbers. That's giving you the confidence, right? So the knowledge, all this knowledge that you're building has led to confidence. And when you marry these two, when you have enough confidence, what happens? Well, you got to take action. And that action is this class. Start making offers, right? Because you can't be a real estate investor without making offers. So that's what you're ready for now. You have the knowledge. You should have the confidence. Everything we've taught you here is way more than any of us at House Money Media knew before we started making offers. We were in our 20s, and you can't get this knowledge in your 20s. It just takes action, right? Get this flywheel going, because after you take action, after you start making these offers, then you're an official landlord, official real estate investor, and you got experience. And then what happens with experience goes back to knowledge. Wow, I've taken action. I've gotten some experience. Now I need to learn something more, right? You're going to know at that point, do I need to learn more about investing? Do I need to learn more about numbers? Do I need to learn more about lenders? Do I need to learn more about this area? Do I need to learn more about contracting or renovating? You now know what knowledge you're lacking and that you need. You can just be stuck in knowledge phase for years or stuck in confidence building stage for years. But you're not going to really know what you're lacking or needing until you take action. And that action is going to lead to experience. You're just going to keep this flywheel spinning, because it gets easier and easier. So I've been around this flywheel, with over 500 times. My deals, my clients' deals, students' deals, and I still am going through the knowledge process. And I'm going through the confidence and the action process and the experience. So I get better and better. The flywheel keeps spinning faster and faster each time. And that is normal. It'll take 90 days or whatever to get you through the first time. And then it's just going to get faster and it's going to be better for you. And you're going to get better and easier at this. So just recognize that you are ready to make an offer. You're in that action stage in the real estate flywheel. So let's go about making offers. How do you do that? Well, you have your buy box, right? So that's why you're ready to make it. You know what you're looking at. You have your mentors, potential team, your systems in place. You sort of know who you'll rely on, who to reach out to. And if not, if you haven't done that yet, start reaching out to property managers and agents and lenders and just connecting with some. Try to get recommendations from other investors in your space so that they can say, well, hey, I use this person. Everyone loves to share their contacts. It makes them look good and sending business to each other. So start building that team. Probably have already done that. And so that's why I say you're ready because you have the knowledge and confidence to move forward and recognize a good deal. So let's get ready for action and experience. So this is what I want you to do when you start making offers, is focusing in on these aspects. You got to make offers that make sense. The listing price is not an indicator of value. And what this means is anyone can ask any price for their property. I don't even care what asking price it is, because I just look at the property and I come up with what price it's worth to me. If I have a very specific buy box, I need to make a certain cash flow. I just take their data, what I can rent it for, and I plug it in, and I'll say, great, I'm glad you're asking $200,000, but to me, it's worth $150,000. Here's my offer. It's not offensive because I know every other investor is probably running the deals very similarly, and they'll probably get a lot of offers around the 150 point because it's not going to make money higher than that, right? So I always just make offers that make sense to me, and I don't worry about the list price. I've done the opposite. The house is listed for 400. The numbers make sense at 500 for me. So I'll run it and submit an offer that's 500. And, it depends. I'll try to get some information, or you have multiple offers or not. If there's not, then I'll give them the 400 price. If there are, I'll give them the $500,000 price. So just don't worry about the listing price is what I'm going to say. Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to waste my time. You are in the action phase. Waste people's time, okay? All they can do is say no. Sometimes they're going to say yes. Sometimes they're going to say maybe. And you'll hear from them in 2 months and say, hey, you know what? Those other deals fell through. Are you still in at your price? And you probably are. So you won't have those opportunities unless you start making offers. It's a numbers game. Start making offers now. That is where you're at right now. Your due diligence period allows you to back out. So use it to your advantage. So what this is every offer comes with a due diligence period. And this is saying, here's my offer based on the information I have on your property right now. And I expect that when I do further inspections and I do further research, that what I am expecting today is what it's going to be when I'm done with my inspection period, this due diligence period. If it's not, I have the ability to back out of the contract and get all my money back, my earnest money deposit back. You may be out on the money that you spent on an inspection or sending contractors over there, a couple $100 here and there. That's okay. I'd rather you spend $500 to save yourself from buying a $150,000 disaster or whatever the house price may be. But I never have my numbers fully buttoned up before I make an offer. I have my best guess estimations. I have what I think it's going to be, and then I start making offers. Because if I am doing the nitty gritty and trying to determine what the exact taxes are going to be, what's the exact mortgage payments going to be, what's the exact utility bills are going to be, that's wasting my time and the seller's time. Let me make offers on my estimations of those things. And then if they accept my offer, then I dig deeper and I say, okay, now I need to know exactly what the taxes are going to be. I can figure that out by typically talking to my mortgage lender, because they're going to have a calculator that says, hey, at closing, this is now going to be the new taxes. They're going to be a little bit higher than probably they currently are because they adjust based on the purchase price. Then I reach out and say, hey, now that we're under contract in the due diligence period, can you share your utility bills with me? Can you confirm that garbage and sewer is X amount of dollars? Don't spend so much time getting this information up front, because you're just going to burn yourself out, or you're going to be asking too many questions and the deal's going to go under contract with someone who's not asking those questions. But they expect you to ask these detailed questions and get these detailed answers once you're under contract. So just don't let lack of information at this point make you and prevent you from making offers. Send the offers based on your best guesses. And then once it's under contract, this is what your due diligence period's for. Let me get these answers. Let me button up the numbers. And then I can back out if it's just way off. And not only do I just back out, first, before I back out, I say, guys, my expectations were the taxes were going to be this. It's actually going to be this. And I thought the utility bills were going to be this, but it's actually going to be this. I am going to have to withdraw my offer unless you're willing to adjust your price to $10,000 less or $15,000 less, whatever makes sense now when I have real information. And it's an educated offer at this point. And then you give it to them. Hey, I got more answers to my questions during due diligence. This is now my offer. Now, I don't just do that to be a jerk. This is an investment. You need to make the numbers work. Now that you have real information, you can make that determination. So this is where I really do the deep dive. I don't do the deep dive before making the offer. And the last thing I want to go over is use a detailed calculator to run the numbers a little tighter if you need to. And there's calculators in this class for you to use. Now, I'm going to add to this video a calculator walkthrough. It's my old real estate maximalist calculator. It's now the house money calculator. It's the same calculator I've been using for years. It's a pretty good walkthrough, very in-depth. The walkthrough doesn't change. So you get to see a slightly younger version of me walking you through this calculator, but the information holds, weight. It's the same data, the same way I use it to this day. So I'm going to show you that video now, my walkthrough that I made for the real estate maximalist calculator, which is now the house money calculator. It's the exact same calculator, just a little bit different branded now. So when you download it here, it's going to look a little bit different, but it's exactly the same. So check it out. And now you use that calculator after you're in due diligence to make sure that the numbers are buttoned up and tight. And it's not just back of the envelope guessing, which we've been doing up to this stage. You're now putting in the real numbers to make it work. Hey guys, thanks for purchasing the Real Estate Maximalist Calculator. I'm Alan Corey. This is what I use to look at properties, and I made it super, super easy for you so you can do the same so that we can compare apples to apples when you're looking at properties. So all you got to do is fill in the yellow information here, and then the green spits out the results. And then you compare this spreadsheet with another. I would call this, create a copy of it, say, hey, this is my car payment house, if you're doing the house fire method, or this is my student debt house, or you can say, hey, quad number 1, quad number 2, or Main Street, or Oak Avenue, whatever you want. But I would create a copy for each property that you're doing so that you can compare them and contrast them. So we'll start with the purchase price. Let's say you're buying a $350,000 property. Right here, you can enter in whatever you want. Maybe you can say unit number 1 is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. I like to do it this way because then I can go find comps, not for the entire property, but for each unit. So the landlord might tell me this, or the real estate agent might tell me this, that, hey, the monthly rent on this is $1,500 a month, and this one's getting $2,500 a month. But I want to go run comps on rentometer.com or Zillow.com, apartments.com. There's all sorts of websites. And I just want to know, hey, what is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, not in this building, somewhere else, renting for? Because that is the market rent. So maybe my comps will say it's $1,800 market rent. I know it's getting $1,500 right now, but the comps are saying, hey, when this lease is due, I could probably rent it for $1,800. Now, 3-bedroom, 2 baths can be a little bit more. That's why they're charging a little bit more. And it could be right on the nose. It could be that you did comps and you're like, hey, this person is getting market rent. However, it may be. Now, obviously, if there's a triplex, you can keep going up and changing these numbers however you see fit. And you just want to do the double check. Don't just take the word of the listing of what they're making, because sometimes maybe the market rent's really $800. So then you have a conversation. Wow, can I drop the price when this person moves out? I mean, we obviously got someone paying $1,000, but I wonder if they'll renew for another $1,000. So those are sort of questions to ask, and you can play with these numbers however you see fit. Now, down payment, most investment properties are going to require 25% down payment or 25% down payment. You just put in that number. If you're house hacking, that is if you live in one unit, and then you can get a primary occupied loan. It's called an FHA loan. You can get 3.5% down payment. Now, of course, if you're doing that, you're going to have to live in one of these units So you could say zero monthly rent, and even though the market rents that, because you are going to have to live there and you can't rent it out. So the numbers will be a little bit different in this situation. We got to fill out all the numbers, but I'll show you what happens there. And I will purposely leave this blank as if you're house hacking, so you can kind of see what that looks like. Interest rate anywhere between 3% and 10%, depending on when you're watching this. I'll just say something like 7.5%. Loan years, well, first of all, I always recommend a fixed interest rate. Whether you're house hacking, whether you're buying a long-term rental, always try to get a fixed interest rate, and don't pay extra to get the points lower. That's usually not the best use of your money. So whatever they quote you without paying extra for loan points buy down, I would put that in there. And you always want the longest term possible. So try to get 30 years, not 15 years. That's the best inflation hedge for you. Closing cost in my market, I'm in Atlanta. Typically, it's 3% of the purchase price. So this would be roughly 12, a little bit more than $12,000, $14,000. You can also negotiate that the seller pays some of the closing cost. Most loans will only allow on an investor to collect up to 2% of the closing costs. So in that case, that'd be $7,000. So maybe I'm always going to negotiate them to paying 2% of the closing costs. And then I can budget that I have 7% of the closing costs to pay for. If you don't know what the average closing costs are, ask your realtor, ask the closing attorney, ask your mortgage lender. All these people will give you a rough ballpark before you go in. Your closing costs, you're paying for the mortgage broker. That's the fees of getting a mortgage. That's what your closing costs are going to. And your closing attorney. That's about half of the closing costs, or just the cost of doing business and buying real estate. The other half are prepaid property taxes for about 6 months and prepaid home insurance for about 6 months that the lender is going to collect up front. You're going to have to pay these things anyway. They just collect about 3 to 6 months up front, just to make sure you don't foreclose and not make payments on your first 3 to 6 months of home ownership. So just know that that's where your money's going for when it comes to closing costs. Property taxes, this should be in the listing. I always bump it a little bit higher because you're going to now have a new comp at a higher price point, and every year your property taxes are going to go up. So whatever's in the listing, push it a little bit higher. This is asking for per year. Your mortgage lender or agent should able to kind of give you an eyeball on what it should be post-closing as well. Now, this is insurance a month. Typically, I see things around $150 per unit, sometimes 100 to 200, depending on where it's located and the condition of the property. Again, if you call an insurance broker, they will gladly give you a quote prior to looking at a property, but your mortgage lender can also give that to you. And it's really per unit. So let's say it's 150 per unit here. That would be $450 per month. Gas and electric. Now, depending on the property, this may be a landlord cost or it may be not. It may be the tenants cover it. So if the tenants are covering it, you can put zero. Or if you're going to pay for it and then you bill it back to the tenant, which is a lot of water bills do, that would also be zero. And a lot of times sewer is a separate charge. That is something typically a landlord would pay. It's usually not much, maybe $60 a month. Garbage, same sort of thing. Maybe it's included or maybe it's a landlord expense. So depending on the property, where it's located and what part of the country you're on, this is all going to vary differently. I've also negotiated my tenants sometimes cover the land and snow, and sometimes I've done it myself as well. So these are all sort of what you're going to pay each month. Management fees. Now, I always budget for 10% property management, even if I'm going to manage it myself. Because what may happen is I may not want to manage it myself. I may pivot and say, I'm going to let someone else manage it. And so I want to know that this is still going to be cash flowing if I make that decision to manage it. Typically, a property manager takes 10% of the rental income. So in this case, it would be $400 a month. And that's fine. I want to incentivize the property manager to rent it for the most available. And if it's vacant, they don't get paid. They only get paid on the rent that they collect. So this is pretty good. 5% is my go-to vacancy rate. I have a housing shortage as I record this. I really have never had a vacancy more than 30, 45 days. It's really, things get filled up quickly, and you are hopefully experiencing the same in your market, but it's good to budget in case it's not. All my numbers are going to be very conservative because I know if it works with conservative numbers, it's definitely going to work in the real world. So 5% minimum I would put in vacancy. But if you think that that's a little low, by all means, change this to whatever works for you. Maintenance is typically my go-to is 10%. There's always going to be maintenance. There's always going to be a door that needs to replace, or maybe a tenant turnover. Someone moves out. I've got to change the locks or repaint. Hopefully I don't use the whole 10% of my rental income each month on that. But typically the way it works is I don't have to do anything for 3 months. And then all of a sudden I have a $1,200 maintenance repair. So good thing I budgeted for it 10% from the beginning. Last yellow thing is the rent growth calculator. So most likely it's 3.5% where you're at. That's historically an average 3 and 3.5. So as you can see here, 4,000 is the monthly rent, but the market rent's 4,300. So we switch everyone over to the market rent, which is what we can get for it on an open market. The current tenants are actually getting a deal, is what shows us. But 4,300, it's going to go up 3.5% each year. And that really compounds and really gets really big quickly. Now, your expenses are also going to go up probably 1 to 2%. So if you really want to be conservative, maybe just put 1 or 1% here and just know that maybe you're collecting more rent, but your expenses are also going up a little bit too. So just don't want to get too optimistic and just be a little bit more conservative. That's it's always good strategy here. So we've populated everything there is here in the yellow, and now we can look at the results. So the difference between a current pro forma analysis and a stabilized is this. This is current. This is what you're getting currently, right? You're maybe house hacking living in one unit and the other tenant already has 2,500 and the other tenant's 1,500. But when stabilized, that means it's operating at its fullest potential with all getting market rents, $1,800. You know that this one can get up to 300 more. This one's already at market rent, and this one doesn't matter because you'll be living in the unit. So the difference between this is the current one going in, your going in rates, and then once you have the first year leases run up and you get everyone on market rents, this is the numbers down here. So gross rents, let's start here. This is all the rents that you're going to collect each month, assuming that it's fully vacant. Property management is 10%. That number is coming from here. Property taxes, you populated that as well, 2,000 a year. And insurance, owner paid utilities, vacancy reserve, maintenance reserve. So these are all your expenses going in. And then your total operating expenses is tallied up. They take your expenses out of your gross and you get your net. So net is your take home pay. The way to look at it is you have a fishing net, you stick it into the water. All the fish in the water is your gross amount of fish. What you pick up in the net is what you keep. That's your net operating income. That's all the fish minus all the expenses. And then your profit in your net is $2,213 each month. And this is a great deal. Annualized, it's just this number times 12. So this is what you'd make in both every month. And then this is what you're making each year. And this is your cap rate, 7.5%. If you're not familiar with a cap rate is basically your net operating income divided by the cost of the building. So it's, hey, I bought this $350,000, making $4,000 a month. Net operating income is your net here, the annualized net, 26,560 divided by the purchase price, 350. It's just an eyeball score saying, hey, that ratio is 7.5%, which is great. This is sort of a way to kind of compare it to what you would get in the stocks. This is the best thing possible about how to calculate a real estate investment with stocks. It doesn't take into account your mortgage or anything like that. And I wouldn't ever buy anything based exactly on the cap rate. Every market's different. I've bought things as low as a 2 cap before and as high as a 15 cap before. It really depends on the market and what's average. But really, this is something you can compare. If you got 3 or 4, house hack situations, all that in the same similar price point, you could kind of just look at the cap rate to kind of see which one's slightly the preferred one if you just wanted to look at one metric, but it would never be my only deciding metric to look at. All right. Now that is answering those questions. Let's go over the mortgage calculator, $350,000 sale price. That's what we entered in here. And this is assuming you're putting 3.5% down payment. It's rounded, but it's 96.5, 97% loan to ratio value, which means you got to bring down payment of 12,250. That's 3.5% of 350. Closing costs, it's pulling over here, and principal. That's how much your mortgage balance is going to be. 12,250 taken out of 350 of the purchase price. Interest rates here, 30 years. So your monthly mortgage payment is going to be calculated here. And so your monthly net, you're actually going to be losing money, $148, and your annualized per year about this. So that's why your Annualized means a year or 12 months worth return on investment is negative 10%. And you might say, hey, this is a bad deal. But remember, it's not because you're house hacking, right? You would be paying rent somewhere else. So just if you get that negative number on a house hack, that's why. But let's say you're not house hacking and you're going to rent out this other one bedroom for 800 bucks, or let's say it's getting 650 bucks now, but you know market rate is 850 bucks. There you go. It changes things much better for you. It's like, oh, this is a true investment because it doesn't know the difference of a house hack or not. So here you go. Monthly net now, you're making $339 cash flow. That could pay for your car note or your student loan payment or something. Annualized, that's 4,000. So your annualized return on investment, all the money that you put in, that's counting up your down payment, your closing costs together. That roughly $19,000 is going to earn you your return on investment about 21% on your money. Right. And because I changed this out of the house hack as well, the cap rate changes. It is a little bit more favorable. So that's more than a stock market would pay in most cases. So all things considered, this is shaping up to be a pretty good deal. And you can kind of see here, to be honest, $350,000 that's making 4,000 to 5,000. That is always going to be a good deal. That might be tough to find in your market. Let's say maybe this house is closer to 400. There you go. This is going to be negative for you. So you would either now say that's fine. It's losing money in the current pro forma. Let's see what it looks like in the stabilized pro forma. Because remember, we could be buying properties with below market rent, and that's okay. And the current pro forma is going to say it's losing, but what does the market rent? And you can also calculate, hey, I've got to put an extra $10,000 in here to fix it up, things like that. And that would help calculate here. So if that situation is, I would also add $10,000 to this number. You can have to close and then put $10,000 to renovate it. And then you can kind of play with the numbers this way. So again, current tells you this number. And then the market will tell you this number, which should be a little bit rosier. And you can compare here. Yep, the gross rents are going to be a little bit better when you're able to get them up to market rent. Property management is going to be a little bit more expensive because they're collecting more. And you walk down here, now your monthly net operating income is going to be a little bit higher. Same with annualized and same with your cap rate. You look over here, your monthly net. Now you're making 40 bucks a month, which is, not even 500 bucks a year. So you're making 1.4% return on your money. Not the best deal ever, but it's better than the negative, right? So it's trending in the right direction. And this is only taking in consideration year one here. And then you can kind of see that, oh, wow, the longer I hold this number is going to replace this number in here. And it's going to get rosier and rosier. So every single investment you buy, it's going to be a little low year one. Well, it's going to most likely be low in current pro forma, and then it's going to be a little bit better stabilized. And this is just stabilized year one. And then you can kind of see, wow, I'm making 40 bucks a month, but in a year from now, that's going to be an extra 127 on top of that. And you can kind of play with it this way. So that's it. It's really simple and easy. It's a snapshot. No calculator is going to answer all your questions. Every property has nuances associated with it. Take it with a grain of salt. Hey, this is just a snapshot. This is quick and easy. You just plug it in. Hey, here's this and here's that. And then you can kind of dig deeper into, hey, let's get real numbers instead of just back of the envelope numbers. Like maybe we'll have real numbers on property tax, real numbers on insurance, real numbers on the quotes on how much it's going to cost to renovate and update these properties if they need it at all. And you can kind of just play with these numbers and kind of get a good feel of what's out there. Now, one of the reasons why this is really low is remember that we have such low money in this. If this is house hack, that we only put 3.5% down payment, which means our mortgage payment is going to be really big. Most investments are going to be 20% or 25% down. And you can see switching that. This is a more realistic snapshot, $558 per month on this property, 6% return. And obviously that changes my cap once stabilized, meaning once we get market rents up to 8%. So that's probably similar to what you get in the stock market, 8%. Obviously the stock market is you're not buying leveraged properties. You don't get all the tax breaks. You don't get sort of the rent bumps added in each year. So these are all sort of numbers you can play with. What you think market rent is really the most important thing in your down payment and your interest rates. And you can purchase a property at 7.5%, and then assuming that it gets refinanced in the future at 5.5%, obviously the numbers all change. So don't change these just to make a deal look good. Just sort of have a consistent look and feel. But this is a super easy way to kind of get started. Just fill in the yellow blanks. And then once you sort of narrow it down to 2 or 3 that you really like, then you can kind of do it with a finer tooth comb and get an actual property tax estimate, actual insurance estimate. And so some of these numbers can kind of work for you. So there you have it. That's the walkthrough. It should be super easy for you. Give me your feedback. If not, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at RealEstateMaxi. Really easy for beginners. I hope you find it useful too. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. So congratulations at being offer ready. I believe in you. You have my permission to make offers. Go do it. You have the knowledge and the confidence. Time to take action. Go take action. Send the offers that make sense. Try to send out 10 offers, okay? And if they get nothing back, crickets back, that's normal. That's okay. What happens is you do enough of those and you do them over time, people start calling you back 2 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, or, hey, this offer doesn't work for this property. I've got this other off-market property from the same investor. Those numbers would work for this property. Would you be willing to buy this? Those conversations start happening when you start taking action. They don't happen until the action stage, and you are in the action stage. So go out there, make some offers. That is your homework.